Hello everybody, and welcome back to another chapter of Pinkie Pie is Dead. Today I'm continuing with Chapter 8, Rarity. I don't have much time for love. In all my years in Ponyville, I've hardly done more than glance at a mare. Call it being lazy, call it being heartless, heck, call it being downright terrified of a relationship. Whatever the reason was, I'd spent more than one hearts and hooves day inside with my only date being a strong drink. No, I'd never bothered with mares, and they'd never bothered with me. I'm not exactly the kind of pony most want to take a chance to get to know better, for more reasons than one. I arrive where there's one last hole in my puzzle. Carousel Boutique. The guards don't give me any trouble. Word gets around fast. A closed sign hangs on the front door. Before I get too close, I hear a disdainful meow down near my hooves. A cat looks up at me with feline disgust before slipping through a cat flap. Bad omen. I knock like a colt picking up his first ever prom date. She answers. Rarity. I don't have much time for love, but every time I lay eyes on that dame my heart skips a beat. Philadelphia always had its share of colt killers, swindlers that'll take your heart and bank account all at once. I don't believe a word when the chief told me she was born and bred in Ponyville. How a boring backwards town like this could ever make such a dame was beyond me. Even now, with her missing makeup and bleary-eyed, she's still stunning. Miss Rarity?
Oh, Detective, Slipknot, was it?
She asked, looking behind me as if expecting someone else to be there. Sideways.
Oh yes, sideways. I'm terribly sorry about that. I'm a bit, well, not quite myself,
she says with a nervous laugh. She scratches the back of her neck. Uncomfortable gesture noted.
I suppose you'll want to come inside.
If that wouldn't be too much trouble, Miss Rarity, I say ambivalently. I'd just like to ask you a few questions.
Yes, questions, of course. Please, please, come in.
She gestures enthusiastically, a pained smile stretching her face. The inside of Carousel Boutique is like a reflection of its owner, needlessly flamboyant. My notebook appears in front of me, and I put a few notes in as I enter. The place is messier than I remembered it. Normally Rarity keeps things tidy, but the store is littered with fabrics and gems and half-finished gowns that hang like sad ghosts over coat hangers. Seems familiar. She leads me into the kitchen and invites me to take a seat.
I'm terribly sorry for the mess, Detective Sinus,
Rarity says, visibly embarrassed at my unexpected company, perhaps a little too on edge. Sideways. Been busy, Miss Rarity? I ask, motioning to the unfinished gowns in the showroom.
We all have to keep ourselves busy nowadays, she admits, looking away. It keeps one's mind from becoming lost.
Lost?
Lost, and, well, I have so many customers. I have to keep them satisfied regardless of the occurrences in my personal life. I'm sure you understand, Detective Siphon.
She's aloof. My gut tells me she's hiding something, and my notes tell me the same. I'm only half listening when I spot a gap in her defenses. I pick up a worn-out Stetson hung over the back of the chair and hold it out to her. Has one of your customers forgotten this by any chance? Exactly as I expected. She blushes and rips it out of my grasp. Generally speaking, there ain't many stallions in Ponyville. Far less than any place like Philadelphia. Maybe it's how boring the place is. Maybe it's something in the water. Either way, the male aspect is lacking, and as a result, the mares have to keep themselves occupied. Even mares like Rarity, so convinced that they're just waiting for their Prince Charming to show up that they lie to themselves and act like it doesn't count. But a dame like her, well, it's a damn shame is what it is.
What do you want, Detective Sideways? She finally says, eyes glistening. Do you want to make a helpless mare cry? Is that why you're here? To push and pull until I start bawling for you? Is that what you want? Just so you can tell yourself what a big bad stallion you are?
I let her get angry. It gives her something to focus on. No, ma'am. I just want to talk to you about Miss Pie. The furious expression doesn't leave her face, but she bites her tongue. After adjusting a fallen lock of her mane, she snorts and looks away.
What do you want to know?
I lean against the kitchen wall and collect my notes. This broad's hostile, and I need to know why. No pony's acting so defensive can be so scot-free. I'd spotted my ace in the hole the second I walked into the room. All that's left now is to play time until I need it. You knew Miss Pie well. I start off innocently enough.
Yes,
she says, refusing to give me more than what I ask. A friend, a bearer. Did you get along well?
Usually.
Usually?
Pinkie Pie is a darling girl, she admits. But her head was never really on her shoulders. It was always bouncing around in the clouds.
And you were always the busy pony. You had your own boutique to manage and your own family to look out for.
I'd appreciate it if you didn't put words into my mouth, Detective,
Rarity says testily. Clever dame. I'm not your enemy here, Miss Rarity. I'm just trying to find out who killed Pinkie Pie and bring the killer to justice. I'm sure you want it just as much, don't you? I say, tapping my quill against the side of my notebook.
What are you implying?
Now I'm just getting sick of it. I'm implying that it would probably be better for you to avoid answering my questions with questions. She glares at me, but eventually her eyes fall and she nods in defeat.
Very well.
Can you tell me when was the last time you saw Pinkie Pie? I make an effort to set my tone as friendly as possible.
Yes, it was just the day before yesterday.
Take me through the day, please, I say, flipping back a few pages in my notes.
Well,
she begins, swallowing.
I had to get up early. Even with Sweetie Belle off with my parents, I needed to get a head start. I had a major commission on my hooves, you see. A very large client had requested a series of dresses for the summer line to mark the debut in Camelot. I spent all morning working on my hardest design of the lot. It was nearly done when Pinkie Pie showed up.
I stop writing. Rarity looks like she's trying to swallow a pill several sizes too big, and I spot it in an instant. I already know what I'm going to hear. It's exactly what I need. I'm just not sure if I want to accept what it might mean. Go on.
She arrived a little before noon, with a celebratory ice cream. I didn't have time for it, even though I appreciate it. I tried to tell her, but...
She insisted, as she usually does. Rarity nods her head and licks her lips.
Yes, but so did I, and eventually she left. That's all that...
She ruined one of your dresses by accident, didn't she? She looks up at me, jerking as if she'd been stung. Her eyes are watering. Whatever she's hiding, it's bubbling close to the surface.
How did...
Pinkie Pie was found dead next to heaps of sewing equipment, fabrics, thread, how-to books, gemstones that she'd probably been collecting for a while now, like she'd been trying to make something. I look into her eyes, and I crack that last bit of armor with a single sentence. Like, maybe a dress? I'm rewarded a status pension. Rarity cracks and puts her heads in her hooves. Tears fall from her face and onto the table like thick marbles.
It was a stupid accident. But I was so mad. I'd worked so hard on that dress, and I was just so mad.
She sputters between sobs.
I should have just let it go. I was so mean to her, so cruel. I screamed at her, told her to get out, that...
She looks up to me, eyes wide. Desperation rolls down her face, matting her fur.
Oh, Celestia, she croaks. The last thing I ever told her is that I never wanted to see her again. That's the last thing she heard me say to her. And now she's...
I have to let her cry. Slowly, it dies down into pitiful sniffing and moaning. Then, she's quiet again, sitting quietly at the table. Dames. Sometimes they just have to let it all out. And then you never known that they'd been bothered in the first place. I hand her a tissue. She takes it, grimacing and wiping her eyes.
I'm sorry you had to see that,
she finally says. Such a lady that I'm so embarrassed to even be looking at her. Don't worry about it.
No, it's silly. Crying won't fix anything. That's your job, I suppose.
I don't have the heart to tell her that I can fix anything. All I can do is cover up the cracks in the concrete and pretend that there was never anything there to begin with. I give her as much time as she needs to recover. Then I go for broke. Miss Rarity, I need to ask you one more question. A very important one. She nods absently. Could you look me in the eyes, please? She looks confused, but of course she looks up. I can read ponies, and it's written in Rarity's eyes. I see it insecurity, even fear, doubt, every last bit of self-loathing and regret. Posture, nervous tics, and tone are only clues to a pony's soul. Everything else just sleeps in the eyes. I watch them closely, and I ask her the only question I need. Did you kill Pinkie Pie? The glimmer in her eyes flickers and falters. She speaks, but I don't quite hear her.
No.
I let my eyes fall from hers, tracing the outline of her lips, muzzle, and neck. I nod. There's nothing else to say. I leave the table and walk into the kitchen counter, looking this way and that. A lovely set, The kind of decor that'd be in some highbrow Canterlot bachelor pad. Everything's in its place. Everything looks perfectly tidy and orderly. Except for one thing. Rarity watches as I go to the knife rack. I hear the breath catching her throat. Pearl-handed beauties. Beautiful and pricey for sure. All except for one. A knife with a black handle sticks out like a sore thumb. The kind of knife that would be missing from a baker's set. Everything slows down when I pull it from the rack. I turn around and show her the blade. It's caked with dried blood like rust. Kitchen knife. Standard edge. Rarity doesn't say a word.